Welcome, Professor Chang. Please introduce yourself to the audiences, and the floor is all yours.
Thank you, Rula. Okay, good afternoon. Should I say gentlemen and ladies, or ladies and gentlemen? Right, okay. So my name is Kirk. My colleagues, my student, often they call me Captain Kirk. I think if you watch the movie of the Starship, probably you know where I come from. Right, so I'm a professor of human resource management and technovation. I started my lectureship in 1995. So this would be my 31 years now. Right. So the first year, the first 10 years, the first decade of my career, I spent a lot of time in using quantitative research. The second decade, I moved to qualitative. Yeah. And the third decade, I became more interested in mixed methods, so both quantitative and qualitative research, because both methods, they all have their strengths and weakness here. And what I have discovered through the research here is technology can really help the researchers. When I say I mean we researchers. I have discovered that the technology can be used in almost every aspect of our research, as long as we know how to really utilize it and understand their potential and their limitation. So in my seminar today, I will focus on a specific part of the technology. This is what we call the artificial intelligence. And let me give you a bit background of the artificial intelligence. So artificial intelligence is not brand new. Okay, so as far as I know, artificial intelligence is nearly 35 years old. So probably this is new to you. And if you are senior enough, probably you have heard about something called fuzzy, F-U-Z-Z-Y, fuzzy, or automation. These are all the predecessors of the AI. So since the probably at the end of 1990s, a group of researchers from Harvard University, they start to talk about the intelligence made by machine, made by computer. And there is the beginning of artificial intelligence. So artificial intelligence, or AI for short, is not brand new. It's been there for quite a while. And I have started to use AI in our research maybe 10 years ago. And I have discovered that a lot of AI software and should we say the platform has been used across the world, and they all have different packages or different function here. So today I will introduce one of the specific that I use in my research. And luckily, there's a journal paper published about this specific research. So if you are interested in this particular research, you are interested in how we can apply AI to the quantitative research, then this paper can be a good source for you. Right, so let's move to the next slide here. So a lot of people are thinking, okay, AI is great. It got a lot of potential, but how do we really utilize AI in our research? Okay. As far as I know, AI can be used, especially in quantitative research, in two specific ways. Number one is the potential, to maximize the potential here. And number two is to improve the analysis, the quality of analysis, the speed of analysis, the accuracy of analysis. So unlike human beings, AI does not really take a break. They don't strike. They don't have working 8 hours, those kind of thing. As long as you give them the power, they can do the jobs. Okay. So if we know how to use the AI, then we can really take the advantage of the AI. But the most common question that I gotta ask is, what does AI really mean? Okay. So AI basically, if I try to explain this to a non-expert, I must highlight the two potential characters of the AI. Number one is the simulation. Simulation basically it's a mimic to imitate human brain activities here. So at right beginning of the AI journey, they trying to understand how human beings, how people they make their decision, how people they collect their information, and how people they utilize the information. So this including the cognition, sensation, affection, and all of them they link together. So AI, the one of the key character here is the simulation. The AI trying to understand how people they think, how people they act, and then they mimic. That means to imitate people's brain activities. So this is one side is for the simulation. The other side of the AI is prediction. Okay, so AI has this kind of ability to predict what a human can think or what a human can predict in their behavior decision or in their consequent behavior. So, in a simple word, the AI, if people that ask you about AI, you can just tell them it's simulation and prediction. If the machine, if the software does not have the prediction element or simulation element, then that is not really AI. Last year, I gave a talk in Romania, and there there's one of the engineer. They told me they are very proud of their AI building. And I said, "Oh, that's very interesting. Could you tell me what do you mean by AI empowered building?" And, and then he said, "Right, our elevator can really calculate the the need of the passengers. So they know when to stop or when to move and when to take a service time. So to me, that is not really the AI. That is just the automation. Okay, let me give you a quick example of the AI. So if I go to my office, the coffee machine can say, "Hi, Professor, I have got the copy for you." Okay, this is not AI. This is just an example of automation because the machine can recognize my face through the software. Then they give me a copy. So this is automation. There's no prediction at all. Let me give you another example. If when I enter the office, then the machine can catch my facial expression, and then they analyze my muscles on my face, and then they can think about on my mood, what I need, and make a prediction. They give me an option. For example, let me give you a strong espresso if I feel so stressed. Let me give you a latte if I'm in good mood. Let me give you something else, or maybe just a tea, subject to my mood. In that case, the machine can make prediction. If this is the case, like then we can say this is the AI. Okay, so we must make this clear. AI is not automation. And in our research world, if we are using AI, that means we are using the AI to help we as a researcher to make a prediction. If we are using AI to do the data analysis, then this is not an AI. It's just automation or software. Just like we may use NVivo for our qualitative data, we may use SPS for quantitative data. This is not AI. This is just the application. Okay. So as far as I know, there are 8 popular type of AI. Okay, and you have heard some of them in the UK and some of them in China or in Japan, because look to me, there are different preferences in terms of how people they use AI and how they evaluate the function and the strength or weakness of the AI. So here you can see reactive AI. This is the thing that we use very often, for example, in traffic control. You have limited memory. This is a type of AI. Theory of mind. This is more related to data comprehension, to analyze human behavior, motivation, their reasoning process. A self-aware AI, and of course, you also have the button for this color for coding here are very, very popular in the UK. For example, machine learning, neural network, natural language processing, or NLP for short, and robotics. Okay. So these are all the popular types here, but not all of them can be applied to social science or management science. So if your research interest, for example, is psychology, behavior, social science, and medicine, then probably These four, especially machine learning, these are more popular here. These are more popular here, right? So the best thing to understand the AI is to understand what they do. I mean, their function and what they cannot do. That's their limitation. So the best way to understand this is perhaps you can just Google it, the function and the limitation of specific AI. So in this case, today we only have limited time. So let me just talk about the popular one in the UK. Okay. So machine learning is very popular these days. Basically, it just helps computers to understand people's pattern. So they understand people's view and people's decision making and people's understanding and people's comprehension. So this including the data collection, data mining, data analysis, and data interpretation. So how it works is they use the machine, computers, or other software, hardware to understand people's thinking style, to understand people's decision-making style, to understand people's the realistic or heuristic thinking style. So they put all those information into the computer. It's what we call the algorithm. Okay, so we use all the information here to understand at what condition, what scenario, and what behavior will be made. Let me say this again. This is the computing part. So the computer, they use all the information to collect people's thinking style, decision-making process, or key factors, think pattern. They get all this information here. They put all the information into the machine, and then the machine try to build a link between the different points here. For example, let me say, oh, Kirk always get up at 6:30, and then run about 30 minutes exercise, then have a breakfast at 7 or 7:15. So they keep doing the data collection for this person, and they keep doing it for maybe for 20 days observation. So they can build a pattern to describe my habit from 6 o'clock to 8 o'clock here. So the more they collect, the better they understand someone's behavior or their decision-making process or their story here. Then, if we are asking what time might be the best time to have a dinner or to have a breakfast, then the AI can say, okay, based on the analysis, I realize, okay, get up at this time, do exercise at that time, then the best time to have breakfast is this, is 7:15 or 7:30. The machine learning here is trying to understand how people they develop their idea, how people they make their decision. Okay. So I know so far I've talked about the theory part, so you may feel a bit not very clear. You may feel a bit abstract, but later if I show you the example, you will feel okay. I got it, or I start to get it, right? So let me see this. This is the thing that I explained earlier in quantitative research. Okay, today I only focus on quantitative research. Quantitative research, basically, we focus on numbers, okay, numbers, figures, or rank, those kind of things. So basically, in quantitative research, the researchers, we try to use numbers to explain the human behavior. Okay, let me say this again. In quantitative research, we try to use numbers to describe people's behavior. For example, we may use the scale to measure people's, say, their happiness or their job satisfaction. We may say we use a 7-point Likert scale. 1 is completely unhappy, 7 is completely happy, or 1 is completely unsatisfied, and 7 is completely satisfied. So we try to use the number to understand people's behavior. Okay. Yeah. For the sake of our argument, you may say, oh, you quantitative researcher, you try to squeeze people's view into scales, and then this is for bias. Yes, there's a possibility there about the data rules and the bias, but that's not topic today. So let's move on. So the quantitative research, basically, we focus on numbers. And in order to analyze the numbers, we have to carry out a lot of the data collection. Of course, there are several principles that we have to comply. For example, validity, reliability, and other different type of assessment criteria. You have the same thing for qualitative, for example, data saturation, and first line of data quality check, second line of data quality check. The same thing here applied to a quantitative research, although in different way. So as you can see from the characters here, these are the key characters that AI has been applied to the quantitative research. And if you study social science, you may find some of them can be used to can be applied to your own research, can be applied to your research. Okay. The next one is about the merit. Okay, this is the thing that I would like to explain to you. As far as I know, AI they have great potential, but at the moment, 2026, today is 18th of March. As far as I know, AI they do have layer limitations. They do have layer limitations. The first part here, let me highlight it for you. This is the benefit and impact. I think we have heard about wonderful things about AI, so there's no point for me to go through it. It's very obvious here, and you can hear it from radio, from television, from magazine. But what I would like to highlight is the limitation and the ethics. Okay, the ethics. And the ethics here is human oversight and the risk and the privacy. Okay, these are the things that we as a researcher we must consider. We must consider when we develop our research design or our method of measurement. And ethics, this is a very, very tricky thing. The definition of research ethics can vary from one country to another country. Can be very, very different from one country to another country. For example, what is equal opportunity? Okay, and how equal is equal, and how confidential is confidential? When we are talking about research, these things these are always important, but very, very difficult to apply sometimes. In AI, very often, we have to define this from right the beginning because our definition has direct impact on the AI research, Let me show you a case so you will know how it works. This paper was published in November last year, and I provide the DOI link here so you can have a look. So this is my own research. I collaborate with researchers from another professor in China. So what happened is we try to use the AI model to do the hiring job. So in the past, it's always the human managers, they do the recruiting job. So they do the advert on website, on newspaper, and then they receive the application form, evaluate the application form. They go through all the procedure to go through the very human demanding job here. So what they do is, for every stage, there are a lot of investment. When I say investment, I mean the human investment, resource investment here. So the recruitment can be a very, very lengthy process. We are thinking, okay, do we really have to rely on humans? I mean, human managers. Do we really have to apply humans in all the process? And then we have discussed this with the ideas of the AI-powered machine. That means we try to develop a model here, and we use the model to do all the job here. And today, I just talk about the AI application. So I will not go to the technical part of how it works. But basically, just letting you know, rather than using human beings, we use the model to do the recruitment. Okay, so what happened here is, we try to use the AI to replace some part of the human job. Yes, we cannot use AI to replace all humans. Still, the managers, they need to identify the position, the vacancy, and they need to identify the skill required for the post. Then the AI can take over the middle part here, So what happened here is the AI will interview, when I say interview, that not in the human way, but in the machine way. They will analyze the candidate, the job applicant. They will compare the strengths, the weakness of every applicant. They will analyze the strengths, the skill set, the knowledge bank, and all of things through the machine. Okay? And in the past, this part of job is very, very time consuming, maybe months or even half a year. The longer it takes, the more bias they may get. So let me just tell you the outcome. So what happened here is, okay, the human manager, they put an advert on the website. They put the advert through different channels of website. Within 1 week, they have received nearly 1,100 applicants. Okay, and the model, they make the decision, they identify the best fit candidate within 2 minutes. Okay, let me say this again. So the human managers, they put advert on the website. The job applicant, they hand in, they upload their CV, everything to the website, followed by a series of questionnaire survey. Then the computer, they can do the calculation immediately, and then identify 122 candidates here. So the benefit here is the human interventions is no longer needed. And because of this, there's no human bias or delay. Okay, so this to me is a good achievement for the application of AI model. Right. The message that here is the AI can do the hassles or the mundane jobs, and then it can free up the managers because they can use the time to make something more important, more cognition demanding job. For example, the strategy for organization or other more important job. Okay. So now let's talk about the outcome. After the application, we have the opportunity to speak to the manager, the CEO, the board, the big cheese, if you like, a very important person. And their view is quite positive because in their views, in their eyes, the AI model, they do great job for the organization. For example, better performance and higher efficiency. And because of the better performance and more efficiency, they're more likely to get a better competitive advantage. So this is from the top. However, if we move to middle managers, we get a very, very different picture. The manager here, they say, yeah, it's great, but they don't feel 100% confident or, should we say, comfortable. Think about it. In the past, they are a decision maker. They decide who should be appointed, who should not be appointed. But right now, they need to share this kind of thing, the ownership of decision making with the machine, with the AI. So some of them, they don't really feel comfortable about this. And some of them said it to me directly. They say, I feel the ownership of decision making is being taken away. And I feel my leadership, my influence is compromised by the AI. Okay. So this is the middle manager. So in their eyes, AI is not really a good opportunity for career. Instead, it's more like a threat to their career development. So let's move to the employees. let's move to the employees. Okay, so the employee here, they have mixed feelings. They all acknowledge the benefit, the wonderful part of the AI, but they also worry about the side effects, such as AI may take over their job. And they may say, okay, if AI is going to take my job, then there's no future for me in the company then. And of course, if they worry about this, their satisfaction, their job satisfaction will be affected. And as you can imagine, this will have a knock-on effect on their well-being, on their health. Right. So basically, this is the QA time. I don't know how Rula she want to deliver this. And basically, before the seminar, before the speech, Rula sent me 4 questions, and I feel I can only respond the first question and number 4, because number 2 and number 3, these are more related to the traditional data analysis, quantitative data analysis, not directly linked to the AI. Okay, so here, let me respond to the first question. Where can AI help in quantitative workflow responsibly? Okay, the way I see it is, as a researcher myself, I must understand the function of the AI first. And I need to make sure I fully understand the strengths and the weakness of AI. As I explained earlier, there are at least 8 different types of AI. So I really need to know their strengths, their weakness, their potential, their limitation. The more I understand their characters, the better I apply this to them. So if I really want to use AI in my research, I must develop a good understanding of AI function and the AI limitation. So this is how I respond to the first question. Right. AI does not necessarily generate code. Okay. The way I see it, AI is a tool to help researchers to, for example, to conduct a more accurate analysis, to predict the pattern, to imitate human behaviors. And all those prediction, assumption, and calculation is based on big data. So we must make sure we have got all the data and get all the accurate data. Very often, I gotta ask, okay, I got 1,000 data, I got 1,000 employees. Okay, could you do something about that? Okay. Very often, I gotta ask a similar question and say, oh, I got a very big bunch of data here. But the first question is, where did you get your data from? And do they have reliability and validity? This is the beginning of everything. So quantitative research, to me, is more like a sausage machine. If I want to have a good sausage, good quality sausage, I have to make sure the meat, the pork, the beef must be in good quality. I cannot really produce a good quality using the terrible quality pork or beef. Come back to the data center, come back to the quantitative analysis here. If I want to have very reliable, valid analysis, I have to make sure my data is accurate, is reliable, and is valid. So to me, before I respond how AI can be used or to be applied to the code generation, I will say we need to focus on the AI character first. We need to understand their strengths, their weakness, and more importantly, we have to make sure the quantitative data, the collection, the design, the definition must be accurate, reliable, and valid before we do analysis about that. Okay, this is 30 minutes now at the end of my presentation. I hope it gives you some insight and really help you to understand the opportunity and the limitation of AI in quantitative research. Okay, that's it. Back to you, Rula.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Kirk. That is really, really useful. And it is a striking efficiency that research shows in using AI. I'm wondering though, so with that, and there is a question from the audiences that I'll come back to it in a minute, but it's just to consider the research that you've done and the efficiency achieved shortlisting 122 best fit candidates. So how should we evaluate such outcomes critically, though, beyond speed alone, especially in relation to fairness, validity, inclusion, and hidden bias?
Right. Okay. So let's go back to the model here. This is the model that we apply to the research. Okay. Of course, we are very, very careful about EDI, equality, diversity, inclusion. So this is why our model must be developed on the basis of real data, and we always bear in mind the importance of EDI. So in our research, we have to tell the machine, tell the model what we really need. So we take out all of the bias through the model, and we test it again. The machine, the application time is about 2 minutes, okay, as you can tell. However, the time to develop it takes about nearly 2 years to develop this model because the original model does not work properly and people have different concerns. So we have to respond to how do we get rid of the gender bias? How do we get rid of the age bias? How do we get rid of this? How do we get rid of that? How do we make sure our data, our model is fair in operation, in transparency, and it keeps all the boxes here. So through this process, we have put a lot of conditions, the factors. We have to tell the machine, you must do not do this, you must do not this, and they must do a number of things. So this is a very complicated process. But the thing that we try to do is, in this model, all the applicant, their profile is based on their skill set, on their knowledge, and on their performance on internet. It's not about where they come from, their education, or their age, or their gender, their religion. No, it's really about what they can contribute, what they can bring to the company. So as an HR person, we really value the importance of EDI, and we do treat it very seriously in the research. Okay.
Thank you, thank you. So one the audiences also at Takora is asking, hello, Professor, is it ethical to use AI in research and which areas in research it will be appropriate? And
Okay.
then he added, can we have the BBT too? Um, so yeah.
Of course, yeah.
Mm.
So let me address this Osu. Okay, if I pronounce your name wrong, please forgive me. Right. So rather than responding to your question directly, let me respond this with example. I don't know whether you have checked the conversation, and I got interviewed by the conversation, and they asked me to talk about the model. Okay, once the paper is published, I receive very two extremes feedback. And some people, they love it, they like the idea, and other people, they just hate me. They hate me so much. They say, how dare you? How can you do this? How can you do this to replace human beings? Where is your justice? Okay. But here, let me clarify the purpose of this model. The model here is to provide an alternative way to hire employees, the new blood. Okay. So to me, this is a different approach to reduce the bias in the HR process. And very often, people are not satisfied about the traditional HR process, and they are thinking about, oh, the bias generated by humans, or the delay caused by the mean. And if we put the bias and the delay together, this is a nightmare. So we develop this model to replace some certain part of HR. So we still think the best way for HR manager to work with the AI is themselves, they must understand the AI function and AI limitation. So it's rather than saying whether it's ethical or not ethical, I think we have to see what the AI can bring to the HR managers. And the ethical, this is the key word here, just like in China, okay? So people they use, the government, they use the big data. So almost they have all the data of individual. And a lot of Westerners, they say, oh, this is not really human right, human friendly. And Chinese government, they always breach the data protection or things like that. Okay. Personally, I'm not interested in this specific topic because what I believe is if we can really use the data here to support the community to make a better environment, a better organization for the employee, then that's the good ethics. If we are thinking all the human right and without doing this, doing that, then the consequences may be different here. So the way I see it is rather than saying whether this is ethical to do the AI, to apply AI in the research, it's better to think about what the AI can really bring us. What might be the benefit? What might be the risk? Once we have a better understanding of benefit and risk, then we can make an informed decision.
Thank you. Thank you very much. I have just one last question if there is, we have a couple of minutes. So one of the most important concerns in contemporary research is reproducibility, as you know. So when artificial intelligence becomes part of the analysis process, so if you used AI in the analysis process or a software for analysis that is embedded AI within it, so what should researchers document so that their work remains transparent and reproducible, in your opinion?
To me, AI is a tool, just like in qualitative research. We use Megatrend, we use NVivo, we use other different type of the software. In quantitative, you may use R, you may use SPS, you may use Excel. And the AI, they also have their software. The way the best, to personally, I would believe if I use AI in my research, I do, okay. But I need to declare it from right at the beginning. For example, there's a section under the acknowledgement. I explain what specific AI that I have used in the research. If I have used AI in my data interpretation, I need to say it up front, okay? And I need to make this statement to tell the editor, the reader, that what I have done about AI in my research. So my readers, they got a better understanding from the beginning. So they know, oh, you are doing this, you have done this, so you have done that. So as long as we make it clear, and we declare it in our research paper, report, or journal article, that is absolutely fine. However, there's always a gray line. Sometimes people they use AI to duplicate the data. But to me, that is a different type of research. For example, let me use the data from, sometimes they get incomplete data and they cannot do analysis. Therefore, they use the AI to kind of self-generate other type of data to make the whole data set complete. To me, that is a bit risky. I'm not saying this is ethical or unethical, but I'm saying this is risky because there's a good chance the data interpretation could be biased. But how biased is biased? This is subject to debate. In statistics, we have used the label of significance at 0.05, 0.01, 0.0001, and etc. Okay, so this is acceptable. In AI, there's no specific level of prediction at the moment. Maybe in the near future, someone somewhere, some authority, they will decide assessment criteria to say how much can be predicted, and maybe they will give us a specific threshold. For example, like Trinity, we all know it's over 50%. We develop a consent, but for AI currently, there's no clear policy about the prediction threshold. Yeah, maybe in the future.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Professor. We really appreciate it. One of the audiences raised a hand. Do you have a moment to answer,
Yeah.
or do you have
Okay.
to
Yeah.
rush?
Yeah. Yeah. Okay.
Okay.
Let me
Well,
respond
well,
to.
please unmute yourself and ask your
Hi,
question. Hello.
Professor. Few questions about the research you presented. So maybe I'll start from the back, from the results. So did you do any follow-up on the selection of the candidates, as you would do in some of kind of like a longer, more longitudinal research, where actually you've got your outcomes of perfect candidates? Is there any data year or 2 years following the recruitment to see if actually the selection provided by AI chosen the best candidates based on the performance of the candidates who were selected?
Yeah. Uh, okay. I recorded. This is the first question. You said you have a couple of questions. So should I just just write
Yeah,
down
yeah.
all the questions?
If you could respond to this, yeah.
All right. I thought I'm going to respond all your questions in one go, or
Ah,
do you
okay,
think?
okay. So my second question, for personality parameters, how they were tested, because there are different types of personality tests
Sure. Okay.
we're using in kind of modern psychology. There are
Yeah.
some employments known for kind of like proper personality assessment, for example, police or armed forces.
Yeah.
So I'm curious what parameters were used here. And I had one more question, and
Yeah.
uh, uh, I've lost it. Uh, so I think I'll stay with this two for now then.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you very much. It's an excellent question. So thank you very much. I'm sure other audience or students they may have similar question. Right. Let me respond to your first question. The follow up. The follow up basically we have 122 and they are doing all right. They are not better than the existing employee, but they are not worse than the existing employee. But what I have discovered here is they are more likely to stay with the organization. The average turnover for assembly line workers usually is about 30%, very, very high. But this is this is this is basically about assembly line workers. So 30% for the machine recruited employee, their turnover rate, I mean, the turnover rate is much less than this, nearly less than 10, less than 10. I don't remember the exact figure, but less than 10. So to me, this is a good indicator of selection. Although their performance is not better or worse to the existing employee, but they tend to stay longer. And this saves the organization a lot of money because with the new employee, when people they go, they have to recruit a new employee. They have to do the new training, orientation, and other things. This does take time and use a lot of resource from the organization. This is really about the first question. The second question is how do we really measure or how do we assess the candidate profile? So as you can see from the left side, okay, let me talk about where we get the data from. So the part one data and part two data, they are from different group. Part one is really from the employee, the performer, the candidate, the existing employee, the assembly line workers. Part two data is their managers. Okay, let me say this again. We collect data from two sources. Part one data is filled by the performers, the employees, the assembly line workers in a factory. Part two data is the managers. So then we analyze their occupational code and we use a number of personality parameters here. So as you can see from the right-hand side here, we have carried out a number of occupational code personality parameters and here employability parameters. And these are a lot of things that we develop the question here. And then we try to tell the machine to find out the link between the top performers and their characters. Okay, let me say this again. We get the data from employees and the managers. So then we put all the data together, we identify the top performers. So that means if a good performers, they must demonstrate some certain type of the characters. Or the other hand, if a person who have demonstrated some certain type of character or code here, they must be a good performer. So we tell the machine to learn this again through the measure analysis. So through this process, we can identify the sign of the top performers. I don't know whether you are still with me.
Yeah, I'm with you. And
Okay.
it raised more questions actually, you know.
Yeah, so this is the tricky part. That the people, if the most, I think during this paper, this bloody paper has been reviewed 3 times. And one of the question is the reviewers, they have concern about this part is you decide what should be measured. And how do you know you measured is the right measure of their skill set and the knowledge required? Okay. So we do provide this part which would then, so the best thing that I can explain it to you is perhaps you can, if you have time, maybe you can download the paper. It's open access, by the way. So you can have a look there, and perhaps we can discuss the function, the value of those kind of analysis outside this seminar, because this is come to the at least we go to the cognitive psychology and social psychology, and specifically about personality psychology here. So perhaps we can discuss it outside the seminar. And then we kind of to tell the machine to observe what might be the best match. So if the people they demonstrate some certain type of character here, then they are the good performers, the good employee. And then we tell computer to tell us what might be the sign of the top performer. Then we apply this to the new applicant. So then they can go through all the tests to analyze whether they possess those kind of characters. If they do, then they would become a good candidate for the job. If they do not have it, then they are not selected for the next move. So basically, it's how it works. A lot of people, they may say, oh, you are the person, you decide the criteria. Is that fair? I guess I don't have a perfect answer. It's about like chicken first or egg first. So the thing that I try to do is egg first. I need to tell the machine what a good egg looks like. And then when the model is developed, we run this again to test whether the model is reliable. So we do carry out other research to make sure the model is reliable.
Okay. Yeah. Thank you. As you were explaining things, kind of like the question that actually arose was the selection of ideal candidates, and I think the question now is what qualities employer is looking for with regards to personality. Are they related really to the performance, or are they related maybe to not seeking novelty and being kind of like more obedient, which will go to that cluster of people not moving employments very frequently, and therefore remaining with employer for longer and saving them money on a high turnover. And I think that's where it becomes interesting, really. And another observation was that your initial data actually is coming from self-reported participants' data, which may include bias, human bias, and second, managers' rating, which also may include human bias. So also kind of like the initial data is interesting, to probably to think about to what extent, as you said earlier in your talk today, that is really important to think about original data and how reliable that data is to really to move to the further selection process. But thank you. It is very interesting.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, back to you, Rula.
Thank you. Thank you so much. And hopefully we will have you again in the future so you can tell us more
Thank
about
you.
new papers. Thank you very much.
My pleasure.
Okay, well, thank you very much for attending. I hope that was really useful for you. And we will see you again with the next clinic and webinars. We will keep you informed. Bye-bye, everyone.